The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are very famous for their beaches, coral reefs, water sports, and all kinds of other entertaining and historical activities. But for a birder, these islands are much more than just a vacation. This archipelago has 27 endemic bird species, out of which 20 can be seen in the main Andaman Islands. As for reaching Andaman, there are direct flights from many cities of India going to Port Blair. For us, it was a 2.5-hour flight. We reached Port Blair and went to Chatham Island to do some light birding before our ferry. There we saw pied imperial pigeon, Pacific reef egrets, and black-naped terns. Then we took a ferry to Havelock Island. Havelock or Swaraj Dweep is one of the main tourist attractions in Andaman. It took us another 2 hours on the ferry to finally reach Havelock. When we got down, we were left in awe. White sandy shores rimmed the green island. Beyond them was the elegant clear blue water. One could see the corals and rocks below the crystal clear water. Then we went to our resort and rested for some time. That evening we went to a tourist attraction called Radhanagar Beach. It was packed with people. Instead of going towards the beach and enjoying the blue tides like a normal person, I explored the forest and wetland areas of Radhanagar. In doing so, I found plume-toed swifts, brown-back needletail, Asian brown flycatcher, freckle-breasted woodpecker, vernal hanging parrots, Pacific golden plover, common redshank, pin-tailed snipes, and a rarity for Andaman, the white wagtail. All these cool birds on a beach with hundreds of people. The next morning, I woke up and explored Govindnagar Beach, which was right behind our resort. There, I saw whimbrels, Pacific reef herons, mangrove whistler, and some really cool views of collared kingfishers. The collared kingfishers are very bold here, in contrast to the ones in Goa, because they belong to different subspecies. Two individuals were sitting at the beach and then moved on to the area inside our resort. It was really nice to see them close. Later on in the afternoon, we came across a small flock of Asian glossy starlings on a fruiting tree. In the evening, I decided to take some landscape shots of Govindnagar and Radhanagar Beach. At sunset, we saw around $16 to $20 birds in Radhanagar Beach as they were gathering to roost. The next morning, we decided to do some serious birding in Havelock as it was our final day there. We visited the southernmost beach, Kalapathar. We saw the sunrise and immediately got to birding. Since Kalapathar is so far away from the main market areas like Radhanagar and Govindnagar, there is some really nice forest left here for the wildlife. Here we saw Andaman drongos and green imperial pigeons. Because the trees are so tall here, spotting birds was starting to become difficult as we had to look up 90 degrees practically the entire time. Later, we saw a bold Andaman shama at the undergrowth level which was not scared of me at all. I also got some nice views of long-tailed parakeets. Lastly, we saw a really rare bird for mainland India, the Chinese pond heron. After returning to our resort, I photographed the collared kingfishers again as it were a studio. If only this species was so cooperative in Goa. That evening, we took our ferry from Havelock to Port Blair and reached our hotel, Hotel Rainbird, at sunset. Now, our real birding was going to start. We were guided by Mr. Franklin, associated with the Andaman Birding Tours. We took an early morning ferry towards Bamboo Flat as we had to cross a bay and going around it would take a lot of time. We headed towards Kalatang and found a lot of fog in late March. Our guide told us that it was an Andaman thing which very few people know about. I was very excited and anxious as we drove into the fog going through the rainforest. Then we finally reached Kalatang. Initially, there was a thick fog, so we could not get good photographs of the birds. But the experience was really nice. We saw Andaman drongos, greater racket-tailed drongos, and also I got a really bad shot of the Andaman crake. Something really cool was that we found a nest of the freckle-breasted woodpecker. We saw a male and the female visiting the same hole. On the same path, we found an Andaman subspecies of the orange-haired thrush. Later on, we found Andaman tree pies and more Andaman drongos. Then, all of a sudden, I spotted two freckle-breasted woodpeckers fighting aggressively. It was probably a territory dispute. They fought and sat on the ground for some time as if they were catching their breath. Then they simply went about their day as if nothing had happened. Some other birds we saw in Kalatang were vernal hanging parrot, Indian cuckoo, Andaman serpent eagle, and oriental honey buzzard. While going back to our hotel, I got down to take some photos of the black-naped terns. That evening, we headed out to Chidiya Tapu. Chidiya Tapu is one of the most characteristic birding locations in the Andaman region. Every single birder goes here for birding when they come to the Andamans. The evening session was relatively a bit dry, but we did come across the Asian emerald dove, red-breasted parakeets, and a really nice Andaman serpent eagle perched up. Personally, the serpent eagle was one of my favorite sightings of the trip. Then we had around 45 minutes to relax before the sun had set fully. Then we could start our owling. Once the sun had fully set, we began looking for owls. Near some forest area, we saw our first owl, the oriental scops owl, Walden subspecies. After that, we saw Hume's bobok and Andaman bobok. We also came across a sleeping white-throated kingfisher. Then we tried looking for the Andaman nightjar. We tracked it on a plateau for a very long time with little success. In the end, we said to ourselves that we would try one last area, and there it was, perched up beautifully, so close, the Andaman nightjar. The next morning, we took the same ferry to Kalatang. On the way, we found a pair of Pacific swallows. Whilst birding in thick fog in Kalatang, I came across a violet cuckoo. Later, when the sun came out, we saw Andaman bulbuls, Andaman cuckoo shrike, vernal hanging parrot, white-headed starling. We also came across the elusive Andaman cuckoo dove. Then we went deeper in, towards Shoal Bay 19. There we saw a changeable hawk eagle getting mauled by greater racket-tailed and Andaman drongo, and an Andaman serpent eagle getting mobbed by a white-breasted wood swallow. We went towards the actual beach via a mangrove boardwalk on which we saw a target bird, the ruddy kingfisher. While leaving, we also got a glimpse of the hardest endemic to get in main Andaman Island, the Andaman wood pigeon. We decided to spend our evening session birding in the wetlands. We reached a small lake with a lot of marsh area and got some great views of two rare ferruginous ducks. They were sitting on the water plants in the center of the lake. We saw watercocks and Balan's crake there too. Then a white-bellied sea eagle crossed us overhead, which was getting mobbed by a rare Chinese sparrowhawk. We also saw an oriental reed warbler, which is a really rare bird for mainland India. It is pretty common in Andaman. Then we went towards Salt Marsh Sippy Ghat and Garacharma, where we saw Andaman teals, long-toed stints, red-necked stints, Chinese pond heron, and eastern marsh harrier. We also got some nice views of plume-toed swifts. At Garacharma, we got the Amur stone chat, whimbrel, and red-throated pipit. Then, after sunset, it was time for our owling again. This time, we went to a forest near Ferrarganj and tried to find the hardest owl to get in Andaman, the Andaman scops owl. This owl is quite moody and one may find it in 5 minutes if they are lucky, but sometimes it can take up to 3 hours too to find it. Luckily, we got it in just an hour or so. The next morning would be our last morning here and we went to Chidiya Tapu again. This morning session was led by Miss Jabili, who is also associated with the Andaman Birding Tours. There we saw white-rumped munias, Andaman green pigeons, fairy bluebirds, forest wagtail and Andaman kookal. Then we went towards the Chidiya Tapu beach area where there is some adjoining forest too. There we saw Andaman subspecies of the stork-billed kingfisher. At the forest area we got the biggest target for our session, the Andaman woodpecker. Nearby, we also got a great sighting of the slaty-breasted rail. In the evening session, Mr. Franklin joined us again. That evening, we decided to go to various other wetlands. First, we went to Salt Marsh Sippy Ghat. There we saw Andaman teal, Chinese pond heron, red-necked stint, white-rumped munia and dusky warbler. Then we went to Sippy Ghat too and saw a mud skipper. There we got osprey, Eurasian curlew, curlew sandpiper, Tibetan sand plover, Philippine shrike and black-bellied plover. Then, at sunset, we went to see the vagrant Dorian starlings. They were coming in groups to roost in the mangroves. Due to the high presence of crows there, they were constantly being mobbed by them in flight. Other birds like great and Pacific egret were also being mobbed by the crows. Smaller waders like striated heron and yellow bittern hid under the mangroves as to hide from the crows. We had to be pretty quick while photographing the starlings as they were very fast flyers. In the flock, I was the first person to spot the ultra rarity chestnut-cheeked starling in it. It looks very similar to the Dorian starling, except it has a chestnut patch on its face. And just like that, we had wrapped up an excellent trip in the Andamans. We had seen every endemic we could. 20 on 20 birds ticked off, and many other lifers too. I would like to thank Mr. Franklin, Miss Jabeli, and Andaman Birding Tours for giving us this amazing experience. Until next time, Andamans, happy birding.